Hello?
Hello?
Who is this?
You tell me your name, I'll tell you mine.
I don't think so.
What's that noise?
Popcorn.
You making popcorn?
Well, I'm getting ready to watch a video.
Really? What?
Oh, just some scary movie.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
You never told me your name.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
Scares you. Traps you. Fear.
Don't trust anyone. Ever.
Feels good to get things out in the open and scream about them. It is a film about a group of kids that all love scary movies, who are then put in a situation where they are being preyed on by an anonymous killer. They find themselves unwillingly sometimes in those very cliche situations they sort of thought were so clever and fun to watch when they're watching scary movies. It goes from being sort of funny as you recognize classic film situations to terrifying when you see that it's really happening, and kind of baffling and intriguing because all of these things become sort of woven up in a single net of who is the killer, and which is it's kind of an impenetrable mystery, as it turns out in this film.
The police are always off track. If they'd watch prom night, they'd save time. There's a formula to it. A very simple formula. Everybody's a suspect.
Uncovering the dark side of yourself and confronting it and chasing it away. That's what the movie's been about to me.
I was so desperate when I wrote it because I needed money so badly that when I gave it to my agent, it took him like 2 days to read it. He had to give it to the other agents for them to read it. And so there was like 2 or 3 days where I was just a nervous wreck whether or not my agency was going to like it. Because if they didn't like it, then they wouldn't send it out and they wouldn't sell it. And you know, I was in the same boat I was in 3 days ago.
I first heard about Scream because somebody slipped me a copy of it over a weekend. There was supposedly a big bidding war going on. And we were thinking, well, if it's good, we'll try to do something about it next week. So I read it Monday morning, loved it, and told the people working for me in development to see if you can do something. It's too late, it's already been bought. So Miramax had purchased it like very, very quickly.
The first 30 pages were perhaps the most compelling 30 pages of a script I've ever read. I couldn't put it down. I was terrified, which was fun to be terrified during a read. And as it always is with me in scripts, I instantly start thinking about what it's like with an actor and what that's going to feel like in a movie. And I just said, I have to make this film.
I think it was around six months later that Miramax came back to me and said, we have this thing that we'd love you to direct. It's called Scream. I thought, well, really, let's go. So that's how it came about.
Action!
Wes Craven was sitting in the lobby of Miramax, and I recognized, as soon as I got off the elevator, I was like, that's Wes Craven, that's Wes Craven. And I had someone come up and they said, Wes, Kevin, Wes. And he went, Kevin Williamson? I said, yeah. He goes, I read your script. It was really scary. And I thought, I can lay down and die.
Well, it was funny because, you know, I mean, my name's even mentioned.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Is that the one where the guy had knives for fingers?
Yeah, Freddy Krueger.
Freddy, that's right. I like that movie. It was scary.
Wow, well, the first one was, but the rest suck.
I kind of wanted to take that out, you know. I did not write that line.
Who is this?
Who are you trying to reach?
What number is this?
What number are you trying to reach?
I don't know.
Well, I think you have the wrong number.
Do I?
It happens. Take it easy.
When we got the call from Drew, Drew read this and wanted to be in the movie. And, you know, we were like blessed. We're like Drew, who grew up kind of in some of her early films in this type of genre. We're like, wow, how perfect is that?
This is something I've always dreamed to do, you know? But I had no idea how challenging it was going to be until I got involved with the project.
It made it a whole different kind of picture right there. Drew Barrymore opening up a horror film and then dying, you know, in 10 minutes. That was unprecedented. That's the alternate ending to the movie. She lives.
She gets away.
It was a calculated risk, and we didn't know whether the audience would even forgive us for that. They did, thankfully, but yeah, it was a very risky film in many, many ways.
With the amalgamation of Kevin's script and Wes's direction, I knew you couldn't go wrong because Wes would bring Kevin's brilliance to life in the most graceful way.
Well, casting was really fun. For one thing, the original budget really did not afford the kind of people that we eventually got. And the reason was because with Drew Barrymore aboard, and perhaps something to do with my directing it also, and the script, then that drew other people. So it sort of had a snowball effect. As one really brilliant young actor after another committed to it, then others would say, oh, you mean she's in it, he's in it? And they read the script and they said, my God, this is incredible, I want to be in it too. We ended up with just the absolutely best cast that I've ever had a chance to direct, and I think one of the best casts in this kind of movie ever.
You know, if I was wrong about Cotton Weary, then the killer's still out there.
Don't go there, Sam. You're starting to sound like some Wes Carpenter flick or something.
And I think Scream actually was one of the first movies again to kind of capitalize on the television world and kind of find young actresses and actors that hadn't really kind of broken through into the feature world.
When I came on board, we already knew Drew Barrymore is going to be in this movie. And that was the only person that had already been set. So when Drew came on, ultimately within 3 or 4 weeks, she decided that the role that she wanted was of Casey Becker. And then we had to start our search for Sidney Prescott.
Mark.
Ready, and action. Ring. Ring.
Practice ran late. I'm on my way.
It's past 7.
Don't worry. Casey and Steve didn't invite it till way after 10.
I'm not worried.
Good, because I want to swing by Blockbuster and get us a video. I was thinking Tom Cruise and all the right moves. You know, if you pause it just right, you can see his penis.
Whatever, just hurry, okay?
Bye.
I had actually just done The Craft the year before and then was doing Party of Five, and it was my second hiatus, and wasn't necessarily sure whether I wanted to do another scary type of movie. So I wasn't very certain about the choice, but I knew that I wanted to work with Wes, and I went and auditioned for him, and he gave great direction, so it was actually a fun process. I like auditioning.
It was a hard search because you had to have the actress who was vulnerable as well as being really strong, and that's a tough dichotomy to find in an actress.
Neve Campbell, I'd seen her work on Party of Five, and when I first met her, I said, oh, gosh, she looks so sort of soft and kid next door. I wonder if she has any idea what she's in for, you know, with this incredibly demanding role. I actually said to her, I said, Neve, this is going to be like boot camp. It's going to be like going into the Marines. Are you ready? She said, I'm ready. I thought, well, maybe she is, maybe she isn't. But Neve turned out to be incredibly resourceful, both as an actress and just as a physical human being. So there's a tremendous amount of running, jumping, climbing, falling, fight scenes, an incredible amount of scenes of very, very high emotion, terror and grief and everything else, and just does a terrific job. And you begin to realize this woman is a real powerhouse. I mean, she's really an actress to be reckoned with.
Do a lot of fighting with a couple of the characters in the film, and you know, rolling around and smashing people over the head and falling and things like that. Hanging outside a window, which was fun, from, you know, a roof, except that they had this like mattress under me, and I felt so lame because when the stunt woman came out and they took the mattress away, and I was like, come on, let me try it. But I said, absolutely not. Right. Like that?
So, how's the book? Well, it'll be out later this year.
Oh, I'll look for it.
I'll send you a copy.
Man, that was a good punch.
I think for the role of Gail Weathers, that was the one that we were really focusing on, that we definitely wanted to have a recognizable actress.
Hi, Gail Weathers reporting live from Woodsboro Police Station. We're taking a glimpse of Sidney Prescott.
Hey, watch it, Larry.
Hey, watch the hand. You know what you're dealing with here?
I wanted to play the part of Gail Weathers because she was just a total bitch, and it was something that I hadn't got to play in a while, at least being on Friends for so long. And I had to really do some persuading to get the part, because most people think of me as the studious type, or I play a doctor, but they didn't really see me as a bitch. So I had to try really hard to get this part.
You look awfully young to be a police officer.
I'm 25 years old.
You know, in a demographic study, I proved to be most popular amongst males 11 to 24. I guess I just missed you.
I had a meeting for the role of Billy. And when I came in, I said, I really don't think that's the part I'd like to play. I sort of like the role of Dewey. And everyone sort of like stopped and was like, whoa. Because they didn't really sort of picture it that way. And, you know, it was written sort of like this big hunky guy. So I was like, I guess it was a little forward of me, but they sort of went, oh, well, And then I guess Wes sort of liked the idea, and it just kind of worked out. It was very heaven sent for me.
Dewey's character could have easily been slapstick, but David always brings it back to somebody who is really a true person. To me, it's always been one of the most interesting things to do in the genre, is to start with situations that could be cliche or characters that could be cliche, and then make it human, because it always catches everybody off guard and makes it much more powerful.
You media type, y'all come in here thinking you're badasses.
Alrighty, here we go.
Here's a small town.
Very good, here we go.
And I'm Watch your P's and Q's.
I will never forget the audition that Skeet gave. And I was sitting here, I was reading the Sydney role when they're in the bedroom. And he was, about 2 feet, 3 feet away from me, and he was reading it, and it was just like, wow, God, you're just the most amazing actor.
I started thinking about us and how 2 years ago, we were kind of hot and heavy. I mean, we were definitely an R rating on our way to an NC-17, and then, something changed. Lately, we're just sort of edited for television.
Oh, so you thought you would climb my window and we'd have a little raw footage?
No, I wouldn't dream of breaking your underwear rule.
He has just really strong qualities of sort of danger, sensuousness, intelligence, and as an actor has an ability to portray that sort of ambivalence, that sort of shadowy figure that you can't quite pin down. That was really important for his character, who falls under all sorts of suspicions in this movie.
Jamie Kennedy was another one of those actors who came into my office. He didn't have that much experience. I think he just finished working on Romeo and Juliet. He came into my office, and it was so clear that he was perfect for the role of Randy. So he came in the next day for the producer and director, and they fell in love with him. We were absolutely crazy about Jamie Kennedy. He was so clearly this role of Randy, and that nobody really could have done it better.
Don't you know the rules?
What rules?
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie. For instance, 1, you can never have sex. Big no-no! Big no-no!
Dead man.
Keep him in popcorn. Sex equals death, okay? Number 2, you can never drink or do drugs. No. The sin factor, it's an extension of number 1. And 3, never, ever, ever, under any circumstances say, I'll be right back.
Hey, you want another beer?
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
There he goes, folks, a dead man. Wave bye-bye. Bye, dead boy. Bye. He's dead.
We had so much fun on Scream 1. We wouldn't have ever guessed it was going to make $100 million and start everything, Start people's careers, launch people's careers.
First test screening we had, and the only test screening we had, the test scores went through the roof. I just had the feeling, filming certain scenes, that this was extraordinary stuff,
Right before Christmas, Variety had done a story that predicted we would be DOA. I remember reading that and going, they've got balls. We're dead on arrival. We're not even getting, possibly may make, we were DOA. And then this strange thing started happening. Our weekday numbers just kept growing, and Wes and Marianne and I would call each other. We're like, oh my God, it's like something's happening. And it just kept going and going and going, and it was a great feeling. Scream 1 was really special.
I think it was so successful because, first of all, it was a great horror film. It was scary. It was a scary movie in its simplest of terms. But also, it's the type of film that invites its audience to come back more and more and notice different things every time.
It has sort of made people excited about the genre again. It's made people want to make movies. It's told filmmakers that, yes, this genre is not dead.
In Scream, they talked about Halloween. They talked about, real films that they had seen and kind of the rules that they had drawn up around those films.
I want to see Jamie Lee's breast. When do we see Jamie Lee's breast? Breast? Not until Trading Places in '83. Jamie Lee was always the virgin in horror movies. She never showed her tits till she went legit.
That third wall was broken, and the audience was drawn into a film that was real people talking about real films, and I think that awareness that they were in situations that were similar to films that they'd seen opened that whole door to the way that media, films, and television have influenced the last several generations of kids.
It's like, you're a junkie. You want that, you want that scary feeling. And a lot of people, it's like a drug. You want more.
You want to
go into a dark theater, have the lights turn out, and just there's something about being scared out of your wits that has always appealed to me, and I think it appeals to everybody.
They go to scary movies because they already have certain fears. And the movie brings it out in a way that's fun because you know you're not going to be hurt. If something has been exercised, some terrible tension has been relieved momentarily. And so it performs some sort of arcane service to the psyche.
Ready, and action!
A matter of gore, really. Does the film somehow stretch your mind? You know, does it get into areas of the psyche that haven't been really explored before? Because that sort of recognition of things that have not been dragged out into the sunlight yet is as we were saying before, is somehow exhilarating.
Came at a time where people's humor was getting a little sharper in a sense, a little more cynical or sarcastic.
You make me so sick. Your entire havoc-inducing, thieving, whoring generation disgusts me.
It's the first, like, quote, horror movie that I've ever read or seen that really kind of stuck to the characters instead of the blood and gut factor. Characters are really well drawn.
It's brought back a horror genre that Halloween started, I think, that we haven't seen in a while. And there's a lot of violence in the first Scream, but I can't justify it. It's very violent, but it's fun.
Fun.
I think a lot of their success is due to the fact that they are such fun, dark roller coasters. The second and third one especially are very much just designed to be a roller coaster ride, to take you on a journey that goes up and down and to throw things at you that you don't expect. It's not the monster under your bed, it's the kid next door.
Sidney, come on, you know me. Come on. Sidney, look at me. Trouble. Come on.
For Wes, I think since he, worked in the genre many times before, he wasn't really interested in repeating himself. He wasn't interested in, doing an homage to himself. He was more interested in doing something new, and I think maybe somewhat visually, but I think more with the characters, realization that audiences are much smarter now.
When Wes came to us, this wasn't a monster movie and it didn't have a ton of effects in it, but what we were doing was kind of vital to the movie. We had a few the old-fashioned gore gags with the collapsible knives and blood tubing rigs and stuff like on Drew at the beginning of the movie when she's being pursued.
One of the effects we did was with the scene where Drew Barrymore gets killed, and she came in and we life cast her, and then we made the dummy, and Bob took it out there to shoot with it and dressed it up all bloody, and we went through a lot of blood on that show actually.
What we do for did we just get that in my hair? No. Okay, good.
Wes and I spent so much time together preparing for this film. I needed to build a real trust with him in order to do a performance like this. One of the things I said to him was, I need the voice, because we knew that the voice for the film would be really scary, but I said I need that person.
You never told me your name.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
I can't have the script supervisor who's a woman going like, I'm gonna get you. You're just gonna be like, screw off, you're gonna get me, I'll kick your butt, I mean, I had to be scared. I had to have the person on the other line. Everything was real. That person really, really, really was on the telephone.
Listen, asshole!
No, you listen, you little bitch. If you hang up on me again, I'll gut you like a fish, understand?
Films are only scary if you feel like you could be in those situations, if you can relate to those characters. And if it's too stylized, I think it pulls you out. The first one was shot in Northern California. There's a lot of trees and green, and, it's a very beautiful setting. The style kind of builds on that.
Because there were so specific things in the script, the glass from the first house, or the vulnerability to the outside, the garage door, and the attic that Nev has to run through, and then jump out the window, and then onto the driveway to see the body. All of that's in the script, and we find houses that we could do all of that and shoot in without major building, which was remarkable.
It's kind of like an eerie house. Actually, 2 people have died in this house. Literally, 2 people have died in the house. So coming up the hill and you're doing a Wes Craven film, and somebody tells you, oh, by the way, 2 people have died in the house, it brings an entirely new thing.
It's kind of a tragic house in that the owners passed away when they were building it. They never really finished the house because they died so suddenly. It sits there on the top of the hill. It's just like a haunted house, and it's kind of designed that in a few years, if they don't paint it, it'll look like a haunted house.
I believe it was 8 or 9 screenings that we had to go back to the MPA in order to get an R rating. They were very much on us for the death of Casey's boyfriend at the beginning, for the death of Casey herself, especially when she's hanging from the tree. And then again, the whole ending in general, they had huge problems with the Billy and Stu stabbing each other.
Ready?
Yeah.
Yeah! I'm ready, baby! Hit it! Get up! Yeah, man, get up! Hit it!
I had the feeling, in fact, I turned to the crew at one point and said, this will never get onto the screen, but if it does, it's going to make $1 bajillion, because it was so different and so shocking. I know during the opening scene, the studio had seen dailies and were a little bit worried, about how it was going to work, because Wes had done it at essentially a lot of Steadicam shots. So when you see it, it may have seemed like it wasn't going to work as well as it did, and just based on that, the 5 days of dailies, we cut it together and sent it off to Wes with no other feedback other than this is the footage, and Wes changed this one music cue, and then we fired it off to the studio, and they loved it.
Wes is so great. Everyone loves working for him. The one thing about our movies, I will brag, is that everyone has such a great time, and they just say how much more fun they have on our movies than anyone else's.
Let's not give away the magic, ladies.
A lot of people think, oh, Wes Craven, he makes all these horror films, he's got to be really sick and really twisted, and they always ask me that, and he's actually not. He's very zen in a lot of ways. He's a very calm spirit. He keeps a very cool atmosphere on set, and he's very warm and deep in a lot of ways.
Working with Wes Craven is a dream. I feel like at this point he's like my father. I don't feel like there's anything I can't say or do in front of him or be. I don't think there's any line that can't cross.
Are you taping this? Wes doesn't like to be taped after 2 o'clock. He has to have his tea. Cut the...
I've always been a Wes Craven fan. I'm scared of him.
He utilizes what we all do well and allows us to bring it in, as opposed to like saying, no, no, no. He's more of a yes and person. Yes, and do this. Yes, and do this.
I thought that maybe he was going to be a little quirky, a little wild, a little crazy, and, maybe a little offbeat. I'd be a little afraid of him, more so than the script. But he is so calm, and he is so wonderful, and he's great.
I went to NYU Film, and I took a class called the horror genre, and half of the class is dedicated to Wes, and I actually have 2 papers that I wrote on 2 separate Wes Craven films. The first Nightmare on Elm Street and one of his earlier ones. I was thinking about bringing him in so he could sign them, but I don't know, I think that might be kind of pushing it.
It's so nice working with such a great director, because Wes really knows how to do it. And some of the cute anecdotes that he used to do before he said action was, I was going into this office and he would say, "Ooh, what's that noise? It's scary. Action." Well, how do you not laugh, He's trying to, make the little build-up, but I think he's just a little doll, and I'm so glad I got to work with him.
I hold him responsible a lot for David and I getting together. I think that he was really instrumental in that, as far as just, being an overseer and saying, look, guys, this is what you have. I see you guys together. And I just think he's just kind of I don't want to say a father figure because he's not old enough to be a father figure. Well, actually, I think he is.
This is a case where a film was really just a great place to shoot, and at the same time, it's turned out terrifically well.
Diet Coke and hard nipples, that's what it's all about. And blood in a minute.
Does that fuck you up if I lean in a little bit?
Only if you fall off and break your sewing neck.